Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Tonight, my guest is June Lundgren. Before I bring her on, I want to tell you about how you can protect yourself from harmful EMF radiation with EMF Harmonized. They offer protection from harmful electromagnetic frequencies for your phone, your computer or tablet, or your routers. I have one on all my devices. It's just a small disc that goes directly on them. I've already noticed a major difference, not feeling as groggy, sleeping better at night, having more energy during the day, even after spending hours in front of my computer or near my phone. You can now get their awesome bracelets. They offer the same protection as the strips. The products were created by a mechanical engineer with 3 decades of experience in EMFs and telecommunication. Just use the link in the description to check out EMF Harmonized and protect yourself today. And please subscribe to Forbidden Knowledge News on lbry.tv. It's our official backup channel. We also have a brand new show called Beyond Classified. It is exclusively on Rokfin. That is an amazing new platform for independent content creators. And another announcement about Rokfin and Forbidden Knowledge News Con. You can now get Forbidden Knowledge News Con on Rokfin. You do not have to buy tickets anymore. We've switched the platform. It's going to be only $10 a month now. Anyone that has already purchased tickets, you will soon be refunded before the conference. All you have to do is sign up at Rokfin. Like I said, it's only $10 a month. It's going to be April 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We're going to have 12 amazing presenters, and you're not only going to get access to Forbidden Knowledge News Con. You're going to get last year's conference. You're going to get all of our premium content and all of the premium content from every amazing content creator on Rokfin. Just go to rokfin.com right now and sign up. They're also launching a mobile app very soon. That's going to be awesome. We're looking forward to that. And if you have any questions about accessing the conference or signing up or anything like that, just give me an email, forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Tonight, I want to welcome back to the show June Lundgren. She is a psychic medium, animal communicator, healer, nurse, demon seer, international paranormal investigator, and author with over 40 years of experience in the paranormal field. As a child, she communicated with spirits, animals, and angels. She served in the military where she trained as a nurse and EMT. After returning from the military, she continued to work in the medical field as a nurse and is currently the founding member of GhostsandGirlsParanormal.com. June, welcome back. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I always enjoy my time with you.
Yes, it's great to have you back. Last time you were on, we discussed a little bit about negative entities, demons, shadow people, negative earthbound spirits. And if we have time tonight, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that, but we're going to be mainly discussing animal communication, which is really fascinating. And it's been a while since you've been on. I'd like it if you could remind the audience how this all got started for you. You've been able to communicate with spirits and animals since childhood, is that right?
Yeah, when my grandmother had me from the time I was a couple of weeks old on, and she noticed that there were a lot of animals that would come and sit under my crib, and they looked as if they were listening to me. And whenever we would go outside, the wild animals would come around. My grandparents lived on a farm, and we'd have a lot of squirrels and raccoons and things like that that would come around. And so she assumed that I was communicating with them. And as I grew a little bit older, then, I let her know that, yes, I could hear them. I could talk to them. And they understood what I was saying. So to me, that was just a natural thing of, I've done that all my life. And tell you the truth, it's nicer talking to animals because they don't have a lot of baggage.
Yeah, I can
We
imagine.
people, we have a lot of baggage, but the animals are very simple. They tell it like it is.
That's really cool. Yeah, I want to get into all about the animal communication. Let's start with I guess your first animal communication experience. Could you tell us a little bit about what happened there?
The first one that I recall was my grandmother had 2 cats, and one of them was acting up and was fighting with the other one. And I can remember my grandmother saying, don't fight, you two don't fight. And my grandmother assumed that they were fighting over food. And I told her, I said, no. I said, they're fighting over, you. They want to be first with you. And my grandma looked at me and it's like, did they tell you that? and I'm like, yeah. It's like old enough to say, yeah, that's what they're talking about. And I shrugged my shoulders and walked off. And so that was the first one I actually remember. But my grandmother said I was doing it long before then.
Now, when you're communicating, how does it work? What are the forms of communication? Like, how does it work for you? Are you actually getting images, or is it some sort of psychic communication?
Yeah, a lot of people I know, I have friends, a couple of friends that are animal communicators, and some will get pictures, some will get feelings, some will, look through the eyes of the individual animal. And I can actually look through their eyes, but I get full on conversations like I'm talking with you. Once they get over the initial shock of the fact that they can understand me and, I can understand them, then, they open up and they start talking about whatever's bothering them. Or it's like, I'd like more steak or I'd like more chicken. Or I want to sleep in the bedroom. I don't want to sleep in the living room, or if they're having like behavioral issues with another of their pack or something, or their master. I was called in when a gentleman contacted me. He said, my dog is having a problem. We moved up here from California, and he's been aggressive towards my wife. He's tried to bite her a couple times. And he said, can you come over and see what's going on? So I went over to visit, and there were actually 5 dogs. So it was actually, they had their own pack. And I could feel the energy that was coming off of the woman. And I said, you're unhappy here. I said, you're unstable. I said, you're not sure you like it here. You've been uprooted. I said, you're having a lot of anxiety. I said, he's picking up on all of these things. I said, and what he's doing is you're part of his pack. He's trying to give you stability as if you were a part of his pack. And, nipping at you is telling you, you need to change, stop it, straighten up, get rid of the anxiety, get rid of the stress, and be normal. And once I talked to him and let him know that this was going to happen for a little while, that she had some issues to work through and that it would be okay, then he was fine with that. And they never had a problem again. And then when I was there, it's like, can you talk to each one of these guys? I'm like, okay.
What is like the level of intelligence when it comes to the conversation? Does it depend on the animal, what kind of animal, or is it, like you said, just like having a conversation with a human? Is there some kind of intelligence gap?
Yeah, no, they're like, it's like talking to a human. They're very simplistic in the way that they think. Black is black, white is white. You know, if you're having a problem, then you need to stop it. This type of thing. And as with anyone or anything, intelligence depends upon the individual animal. Each one of them is different, just like each person is different. Some of us are not so smart, some of us are really intelligent, but clueless. You know, I find that cats are fairly intelligent, most of them. It's just that they're very self involved. And, it's all about
Reminds me of
their
my cat a
creature
lot.
comforts. Yeah, it's all about their creature comforts. And you're their person. I mean, it's not the other way around. You're their person. With dogs, it's like the other way around. It's like, you know, I'm your person, so to speak. And there has to be an alpha. I'm the alpha in my family for all my dogs. And at one time, I had a pack of 8. It was a mixture of, I had a couple of Doberman Pinschers. I had a German Shepherd. I had a Border Collie. I had a Cocker Spaniel. I had a Springer Spaniel. And I had one that was half Coyote and half Norwegian Oak Hound. And they all got along. If they didn't, if there was a problem, I talked to them and took care of it. But, 8 dogs getting together and living, they were fine.
That's really cool. Yeah, my cat definitely. It's his place. He does what he wants, and I just feed
Yeah,
him.
he
And
just he just lets you live there and
right,
pay the
yeah, he's just
bills. And,
letting me.
yeah, that's the way
Definitely,
it
that's
is.
definitely the attitude. Now, you mentioned how their reaction whenever they notice that you can communicate with them. Are you said that they're kind of startled.
They're startled and almost taken aback, but they hesitate for a minute or two, but then and they like size you up to see, well, am I really hearing this? What do you want? That sort of thing. And the first thing you have to do is reassure them that it's okay, that, I'm not there to bother them. I'm here to help. What do they want changed? What are they having problems with? Once they understand that, then it's like, they're like really open to saying, well, I really don't like it when they do this or they do that, or, they shut me away in the bathroom. I don't want to be in the bathroom. And the only reason I'm peeing all over the place is because there's a couple of other male cats out there that I really don't like, and I don't want them near me. So, you find out the particulars, and you translate it to the owners, and they're usually good to go.
Now, are you able to communicate with all animals? Are there some that you can't get through to, or may react negatively and don't want to?
Yeah, all animals. I don't like really talking to bugs too much, because I think that's where attention span of a gnat comes from, because these guys got no attention span whatsoever. You're sitting there trying to get through to them, and they're like, "I'm off," gone. I'm like, "Okay, you can't really do anything with them because they only half listen when they do listen. Most of the time, you're not worth their time and effort." So they just go on their merry way. But I
That's
do
interesting.
warn them. I say, if you come in my house, I will kill you. I do not like spiders. I don't like spiders. I warn them. I give them fair warning. You come in here, dog meat. I'm not dealing with it.
Wow, that's fascinating. I didn't even think about insect communication that you'd be able to do
Oh
that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, have you ever
That's why I
gotten
don't
through
talk to
and
them too
gotten
much.
any kind of concerns from any insects before?
No, like I said,
No.
their attention span is minuscule, so it doesn't do you any good.
What would you say is some of the primary concerns of animals like a dog or a cat? The domesticated animals.
With dogs, it's usually about food, or they can, that's the main thing. But then they have their concerns about their owners being maybe unstable, or they know the owner's sad, going through it sometimes. They're stressed, and they try to help, but it's not always helpful. The way they help is mostly by being there with you and giving you comfort, but sometimes that doesn't work with the humans. And if there's any kind of abuse, I'm I'll tell them, this is what's going on. I had a case where the animal didn't want to be around one of the kids, one of the grandkids. And I talked to the dog and found out the grandson was taking rocks and throwing them at the dog and hitting the dog with them. And so I told the people, I said, this is why. This is what's going on. I said, you need to know. Something needs to be done about that.
Now, have you communicated with birds?
We have a lot of birds around
What is
here,
that
pheasants.
like?
They
Was it
have a little better attention span, and they're quite intelligent, but they don't. We're more of a bother to them than anything. It's like, this is my territory. What do you want? Why are you talking to me? That sort of thing. And sometimes they'll initiate conversation, but most of the time you have to initiate the conversation, because they don't realize that they can understand you, because most people they can't understand, plain and simple. So when you do talk to them, they're startled because they can understand you, and you can understand them. So getting a response, and then they want to talk a lot, and they come back, and get same blue jays and stuff. They just come back time and again, or the hawks that fly over. But we used to raise cattle, but we haven't done that for a few years. But they like to talk. They like their territory. If something's wrong in the field, let me tell you, they're going to tell you about it. I mean, even if you couldn't communicate with them telepathically, we had one named Charlie. Her name is Charlotte. We called her Charlie. If she was a quarter horse, she'd be about 16 hands. She was tall, big girl, black Angus. And one time I was out inside and I heard this mooing, and I'm going outside. I'm like, and there's Charlie standing out the back gate. And I'm like, what do you want? And she just keeps mooing. She's like a foghorn. You could have the house float up and you could hear her clear inside. She kept mooing. I'm like, what? And finally I said, oh, just talk to me and tell me. And finally, there's no water, no water, no water. I'm like, what they had done was they had taken, there's a plug in the bathtub that we use for water. And one of the other cows had used their tongue and pulled it out so that it wasn't holding water anymore, and it was summertime. So that was not a good thing. She was mad about that because the bull did that. She was mad. Oh God, she was mad about that.
It seems like horses would have a lot to say. Have you done any horse communication?
Yeah, the horses are just they're kind of passive. Most of the ones around here, you got your thoroughbreds are kind of high strung and stuff, but they have a lot to say. They're quite interested in communicating, and they are all about how can you get the human to do this for me, or how can you get the human to do that for me? That's really important to them. It's like, this is what I want, and they're not doing it. So can you just tell them that? It's like, okay, I'll tell them. I said, I don't know if they'll do it, but I'll tell them. And it's like, my son has been an animal communicator again since he was born. And all he did was see a picture of Keiko when he was about 5 years old, and he was in connection with him. And we went to the Oregon Coast Aquarium when Keiko came finally to live. And there were a bunch of kids on one side of the area of the tank, and my son was on the far end by himself. And he passed the other kids and came directly and nosed the window where my son was, and he was communicating with them, and I could hear what he was saying, and it was quite interesting. I'm like, oh, okay, so that got handed down. All right.
Yeah, that is very interesting. So he has basically the same abilities as you. Does he practice that often?
He hears them differently. He doesn't hear them like I hear them. I hear words and everything. He gets the emotions. He gets the emotions and the pictures more than the conversations. So that's how he responds, is with emotion and pictures, images in his mind.
And earlier you said that they don't see the world the same as we do, that it's kind of just like two shades, black or white. Is that across the board with most of the animals that you communicate with?
Most animals, except dolphins, don't see it. Dolphins and whales don't see it that way. The mammals, the fish, the dolphins, whales, us, otters, seals, they see it a little bit differently. They're all about the environment and, trying to help. They don't understand why man's trying to ruin the ocean, why they're trying to cause problems. And, for them, that's a big deal. They don't understand us, because of what we're doing. And for them, it's important that the ocean continues. And so that's what they're trying to get across to people. And of course, most people don't listen, but the dolphins are really intelligent, very much so. I would say out of all the species, they're the most intelligent.
And you would say they have the kind of like the same thinking as whales or porpoises and these other sea mammals. That's very interesting.
They all, don't understand why we treat the ocean this way, and why all the plastic and stuff like that. They don't understand that. They don't understand what the stuff is. I tried to explain to them what things are, and they don't understand why it's there.
Well, I can imagine, if I was in their position, I wouldn't understand. I still don't understand most
Yeah,
of
I
the
don't
things that we're
either.
doing to the planet. In your email, you wrote that they are connected to one great consciousness, and
Oh
they
yeah,
know
yeah.
that light is love, and compassion and total acceptance. Is that also across the board with all animals?
Yes, all animals. The thing about animals is they're closer to God than we are because they have they don't have a mean bone in their body. It's all instinct, it's all survival. A lot of people say, well, animals don't have feelings. And that's not true. They very much so have feelings. I had the cow I was talking about earlier, Charlie. She lost her baby and she mourned for weeks and weeks, after her baby died. So it's like they have feelings, and they teach in vet school that, animals, can't feel pain. They feel pain. It's just they have a higher tolerance than we do. And when they cross over, they don't hang around here. You don't see ghosts of dogs or cats or anything like that unless, they have a master that they're very, very attached to that crosses or that remains here. Then they might stick around. But they don't have our baggage. They don't have our hangups. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going home. All right, cool. I'm going. It's very simple for them. They know they're going to go home to God. They know that they're going to a better place and that they can come back again if they want to. It's all up to them.
And you also said that they're closer to God, and they're basically without sin, right? They're innocent
Right.
creatures.
They're innocent. Yeah. Anything that they do is instinctual. Man can't say that. Man is, man can rationalize, man can plan. And the things that we do to each other is not good.
Going through, some of the animals that you communicate with, what are mostly their opinions of humans? Say dogs, cats, and some other farm animals. How do they feel about us?
And they feel that most of them tolerate us. They tolerate us. Dogs are different because, they're more companions. A cow, a sheep, elephant, they tolerate us not very well. The wilder animals don't tolerate us well at all. There's a place up here in Washington called Wolf Haven International. And the first time I went up there, I went to communicate with the wolves because these are wolves that were, somebody had kept, and some of them are hybrid, but most of them are full blood wolves. And I went there, and my son and I were standing. I told him, I said, listen, I said, I'm going to ask them to howl. And suddenly they all started howling at the same time. And the lady that was giving the lecture said, they never do that. And I just smiled at my son and said, yeah, well, had no reason to until now.
Yeah, I mean, I can
I
see
love
why
I
a
love
lot
wolves.
of animals would be weary of humans because a lot of humans just consider them a commodity and, would kill them for food or clothing or whatever
Yeah.
else they need,
Mm,
and don't
they
consider that
mistreat them,
they have emotions,
I
right?
mean, yeah, like they're just like in the courts. They just consider them property. They don't consider that they have any feelings, that they have any cares, that they're just a piece of property and nothing more. I'd like to see that change, but first you'd have to change the way man thinks.
So you definitely say that an animal has a soul.
Oh yeah, I've seen whenever one of my animals die, I've seen the soul leave the body and go to the other side. I remember when my male Dobie, when he was ready to go, he's like, "Mom, I'm ready to go." He said, "But I want to stay for you." And I said, "No, no, no, don't stay for me." I said, "You can go." And then a few hours later, he just passed. And he was reborn into my next set of Dobermans because they come
Oh,
back.
yeah, that
They love
happens
you. They'll
often.
come back and again and again. Oh, yeah.
Really?
I have the Springer I have now is 14, and she's my fifth one. She's been back 5 times. This is her fifth time. They, if you love them, take care of them, you have that connection with them, they'll come back again. You'll find them.
Yeah, I've heard that
My
before.
Dobies, yeah, my Dobies came back as my two pit bulls that I have now. I have two sisters. My Dobermans were two sisters. They have the
That's really
same
cool.
mannerisms, the same body build. They'll even answer to the old names.
Wow. Now, you said it's a rarity to see like an earthbound spirit, like a dog, or a cat. Is there any animals that tend to stick around for any other reason? Because I've only heard, like you said, maybe one or two accounts of like a ghost dog or some kind of
Yeah,
apparition that would,
usually, yeah. They used to in England. They used to use the sheepdogs, old English sheepdogs, or and pit bulls for nannies. And if their charges, if they die and they still feel, that they need to watch over their charges, they'll never leave until the charges don't need them anymore. They'll stick around.
now
Same thing with the cat.
do the animals? You said that they have a higher tolerance for pain. So that is, a lot different than us. How do they assess like
Mhm.
sadness and love and a lot of these other emotions? Would you say it's similar to us?
Yeah, it's similar to us without the baggage. They just know that when they lose a pup or they lose a child, that they mourn just as people do, but they understand that life goes on. They mourn for a while and then they move on because they know that you know that they will create another life. And it's fascinating the way they can just kind of equate that. It's like, okay, I've lost this child, but I can have another one, and I can and be happy.
Now we have a couple of dogs and a cat here. We have Pit Bull, Basenji, and an orange tabby cat. His name is Leo, and Leo is always looking at stuff that I don't know what the hell he's looking at. I've heard from a
Oh,
couple of different guests
spirits.
that cats can see, well, especially cats can see like spirits quite often, and that's what they're
Oh yeah.
looking at. Is this something that you'd agree with?
Oh yeah. Cats, dogs. They all see them. My house, I can always tell. It's like if they're away from me, they're up to something. So I go and they'll be staring. Michael will be visiting, the archangel, or Gabriel will be visiting, and they'll, because they like to talk to the dogs first, and me second.
Now
They prefer the dogs as well.
something else that a recent guest, I can't remember who said it, but they said that cats tend to pick up spiritual attachments easier than other animals. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, I don't think that I don't think that they really pick up attachments per se. They, know when there's someone around. Like I have some friends where the dad died and the dad's hanging around all the time. So the cats will, interact with him. And but I don't think that they really pick up attachments. They just know that there's something around. They're a good indication. If you're in your home and there's something starts happening, usually if you pay attention to the animals, they'll let you know what's there. If the dog starts growling or the cat, get his fur is all standing up, then it's usually something negative. If they don't, if they just like are happy with it and bark happily, then it's a good spirit. But if it's something negative, they'll want to be anywhere but there. They won't go into the room. They won't deal with it. They have that intuition. They're like, no way, this is not a good thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Something I've
A
noticed,
lot of
especially.
people, yeah, a lot
Go
of
ahead.
people don't pay attention to their animals. It's like, if you're in the paranormal field, you should know that the animals react if there's something there. And if the dog repeatedly won't go into a room or it's barking at the corner or whatever, pay attention. He's not just barking to be barking. Like I can't stress that enough.
And something I've noticed, especially with our dogs, if I'm not feeling good or in a bad mood or sad, the dog will come up to either both of them, come up to me and just kind of nuzzle on my, face, or just, it's like they can tell that there's something
Yeah,
wrong
they
because
can they actually read your energy, feel your energy. And that's where, if they can't understand you like they can understand me, they pull your energy and they look at it and they're like, oh, he's not feeling good, or he's sick, or he's upset.
Yeah, and it's sometimes like that with my cat, but it's not as prevalent. My cat will,
No.
if maybe after a few hours, if I'm laying there, he'd be like, "Okay, I'll come over and give you a little comfort,"
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
he'll
he'll
give me
give
a few
in. Yeah,
minutes.
yeah. Dogs are more ready to do that, whereas cats are like, yeah, maybe just wait it out.
Yeah, eventually he makes it over there though, which is very
Yeah, it's like,
interesting.
okay, if I must.
Now, have you ever worked with any, I guess, animals with any mysterious cases, like missing things or something you're trying to find out
Oh
that you
yeah,
would think the
yeah.
animal knows?
Yeah, I actually have had this is the second time. Had a gentleman contact me because his cat had been missing for a couple of weeks, 2, 3 weeks. And he contacted me. I said, well, send me a picture of the cat. So he sent me a picture of the cat. And if I focus on the picture, I can see through the cat's eyes where they are, what their surroundings are. And I talked to him. I told him, I said, you need to go home. I said, but you better wait. You better go home during the daytime and not at night, because it was wanting to, like, it was hidden under like a shed. I said, you go home during the day. I said, otherwise, there'll be things to get you at night. And he came home 2 days later. And then he just got hold of me again. The cat was missing. And I'm like, okay, same place, I'm sure. So I look at him and I'm like, you get home. I said, you're worrying him. I said, get home. Next day he came home. So it's like, it's all about, just if you can focus on them and communicate with them, unless they're dead, and even if they're dead, you can get the fact that they're dead. So
You think that everyone has this ability to communicate with animals that they just haven't tapped into it, or is it something, unique?
I think everybody has the ability to, if they take the time, to read the animal's energy. It's not just about what you can see, how they react, but the energy that flows from them. And if you quiet your mind and sit still and just reach out to them, you should be able to feel the energy, if not the emotions. I think a lot of people, it takes too much time and energy for them to do it, or they never think about it, or, they think they can't do it. But, I tell them, just sit down quietly and open your mind and do it. I mean, you can do anything you want if you just put your mind to it.
Now, when you're communicating, do you have to be, looking directly at the animal into its eyes, or, within a certain
No,
distance, or?
all I need's a picture. This guy lived in Arkansas,
Okay.
and I said, send me a picture.
And do you
If I can get a
offer
picture, I can.
do you normally offer services helping animal? I mean, speaking with
Yeah,
animals and helping people.
if people have, people think that they see my animal communication, and I told people, I said, you don't have to pay me to find an animal. That's part of what I like doing. And I do that, if I have rescues, I'd like to donate my time to rescues and help with the animals with behavioral problems and stuff, that sort of thing. Yeah, people contact me. I tell them, just shoot me an email. I'll help you find them. I'll
Yeah,
help
that's
and get
very
them
cool.
home. It's easier for me to talk to the animal and get them to go home than it is to get them, have the person go to where they are, because it's
And
just too complicated.
when the animal goes missing, what is the, I guess, usual case? Does the animal leave themselves for some reason, or just get
A-
lost?
Well, the animal usually will get lost. They'll get sidetracked. They're kind of like kids in the way that they'll get doing something and they're just like, yeah, and then before you know it, they don't know where they are. They just know that they want to get home and they're not quite sure how to get there. And that's the time when they need the help.
Right. Yeah, that's very cool. I do want to transition for the second half of the show to talk a little bit more about negative spirits. But if people do want to contact you about animal communication, is there an email that they should use?
Yeah, they can email me at demonseer1 at AOL.com.
Very cool. Awesome. Now, we touched on, well, we did a show on negative entities last time, but there's always so many different rabbit holes you can go off of, and this
Yeah.
conversation can go extremely deep.
Yeah.
But for people who may be afraid that they have this attachment or a negative entity in their house, how can they tell what it is and how to deal with it?
There's a couple of simple ways to tell whether it's a earthbound spirit or whether it's an inhuman. One of the easiest ways is if it's an earthbound spirit, you're going to get cold spots. You're going to get like the hair standing up on the back of your neck and stuff like that, but mostly it's the cold spots that are the telltale giveaway. Because if it's an inhuman, there are no cold spots. And the atmosphere around you gets thick, feels heavy. It feels like somebody's watching you all the time. You get this nauseated feeling, sickness in the pit of your stomach. They can, whisper in your ear, which they try to do, but they'll stalk you for a long time. A lot of times they'll choose a victim and they'll wait and they'll watch. They'll watch for the person's weaknesses. They'll watch for their strengths. They'll watch to see if they're easily influenced. They'll watch to see if their faith is strong or is it weak. Are they abusing substance? Do they come from an abusive um, uh, relationship or grow up in an abusive household? All these are factors that they look for when they seek to attach themselves to a person. But the surefire way to let you know if it is a negative inhuman is to try to sage your house. If you sage your house, the activity will ramp up 100% because they're saying, oh, I'm here and you're trying to get rid of me. So I'm just going to make you miserable.
Would you
Normally, I
say that
tell people,
these negative
do,
ones that
do
they
not
feed off
sage.
of the energies that you talked about?
Yeah, they feed off of fear. They feed off of depression, anxiety. All the negative emotions feed them, and if it's not there, they help to create it. Jealousy. They get the husband and wife going at each other. They try to isolate the individual from their support system so that because and they'll whisper in their ear and say, nobody can help you. We're going to kill you. We're going to kill your family. Nobody can help you. You might as well just give up now. But
And
you can't do it.
well, yeah, and just now you said that sage will ramp up everything because they notice you're trying to get rid of them. Would you recommend that people don't sage at all, or they
Yeah, a
what
lot
would
of
be?
times, if they feel if they feel sure that there's a negative entity, because they're experiencing negative things, like they're getting scratched, they're being bit, they're dead bugs, they're finding dead things all over the place. They have that sick feeling, they're smelling rotting meat or rotting flesh. Those are pretty good indications that it's an inhuman and they should not sage. But if you're not sure if it's like Mr. Grinch, you know, doing something, then if you sage, it'll 9 times out of 10 it'll go away. I had where I was called into a children's theater, and they had seen what they what was a 7 foot tall shadow person, and they were sure that that's what was scaring the kids and stuff. And so I went in on it, and yeah, it was a short, fat, balding guy who never got any uh, in respect in life. So he was going to show himself as a 7 foot tall shadow person to scare the living tar out of
Oh,
you. They
wow.
can do that. They can make you see them as they wish to be perceived. That's what demons do.
Well, speaking of demons, are most inhuman spirits demons, or could we be dealing with some other type of, non-human entity?
No, all demons are inhuman. They've never been
But what I'm
able
saying
to
is,
take
any
on.
other non-human entity, are there others besides demons, other
Well,
non-human entities?
they're all kind of they're all kind of like they go into classifications. There's the old demons, which are the strongest and the smartest of the demons. Then there are the lesser demons, who I liken to hormonal teenagers trying to cause problems. And then there are the minions, which serve them, which are the little creepy crawly dudes that come out of the woodwork and look for victims. Then there are the incubus and the succubus, and these are both demons. There are um, there are other types of demons that are not so prevalent. Demons, people don't understand. Demons evolve, just as humans evolve. Demons evolve, and I've run into lately some really weird evolutions. I ran into one that was like half banshee, half harpy. The harpies are, again, these are demons, but they're kind of a minion. You don't see them very often, but when you do, you hope to never see another one of them because they're nasty and they're ugly and they just have bad attitude, worse than the demons. They just like, a demon on steroid, they have attitude. But you don't see them very often. And I had one lately. I've come across a couple of demons that were lesser demons, but if they were human, I'd say they were psycho. They were, they didn't follow the normal behavior for a demon. It's like they're insane. Because usually if you find a lesser demon or old demon, you have these little minion dudes hanging around because it's like a shark with a pilot fish. They're always around. Well, these two that I've come across that were crazy didn't have any of that, and they didn't do any of the stalking. They just saw somebody and just went for it, attached themselves, and they were much more aggressive than most demons are. I had to kill them, of course, because I couldn't have them hanging around.
Now you can actually see them, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
What?
see
Go
I
ahead.
see demons in their true form. And the reason for that is Michael said, when I was 5, he says, you're seeing them through angelic eyes. He says, that's why you can see them in their true form. Most people 90% of the people see them as they wish you to see them. They reach in your mind, they pull out your preconceived idea of what a demon should look like, and they turn themselves into that and make it 10 times worse. And they project that image into your mind to elicit fear.
That's interesting. Now, what are some of the things that would, I guess, attract some of these entities to a person? Could it be some kind of social behavior somebody's doing, something negative happening in their life, something like that could attract these?
Oh, yeah, they're attracted by, they look for people with substance abuse issues, whether it's alcohol, drugs. They look for people that have either experienced a lot of, abuse, like either physical, emotional, mental abuse. They look for people with mental illness. They look for people who are alone, who have little to no faith, loners, people that have experienced violence in their lives. All these things. Plus, they do look for people with faith because it's for them to turn them against and against the light to the dark. It'd be like a feather in their cap, so to speak. For them, it would be an awesome thing.
Now, when it comes to entity attachments or what you would call possession, do you believe that an entity could completely take someone over at some point and it wouldn't be that person anymore?
Yeah, I've seen it happen. I was called in. I did a show called Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis, and I was called in on a case where the woman had 11 entities within her. And I took a friend of mine who's a minister, and I took my other friend that's part of my paranormal group. And I said, we're going to do an exorcism on this woman. And I said, you need to go. I told my friend who's the minister, I said, you need to go. I said, because you're afraid of the dark ones. I said, you cannot be afraid of the dark one and serve God. So I knocked on the door, and they're standing behind me. And the woman opened the door, and her eyes were black, and she growled at me and said, get out, and then slammed the door. I'm like, all righty then, let's try that one again.
Wow.
So I knocked on the door again. Our two friends are looking at each other like, holy crap. I'm like, this time when she answered it, she was in full, she was in full. She was aware of what she was doing.
And you were able
So
to
when inside,
successfully get rid of the
yeah,
attachments?
there were actually 10 of them were removed at that time. And we got to the point where the last demon was there. And I reached into its mind to find out what it was doing, why it was in there. And it doesn't like it when I reach into their mind. It bothers them a lot. And I said, you're hiding out from Lucifer. And what happened was he was given a job by Lucifer to get a hold of an archbishop and turn him against, the church, influence him. And he just decided he wasn't going to do it. He didn't care. He just took off. And Lucifer had been looking for him for some time. And I told the entity, I said, if you really want to go home to the light, I said, I can have Jesus take you to the light. He's like, no, you're lying. And I'm like, no. I said, Jesus, come forth. And my two friends are standing in front of me and the woman, and they split they separate to two sides as this large white hand comes out towards the woman for the demon. And Jesus stretched out his hand, and the demon's like, no, you're lying. It was tempted for a moment, and Jesus withdrew his hand. And I said, okay, if you're going to be that way, I said, Lucifer, come forth. And this image, what my friend saw was this black image come down the hallway, and it was dressed in like a fedora and double-breasted suit, spats, that sort of thing. That's how the image that he projected to them. And I told him, I said, I found one of your runaways, your rogues. And he looked at the woman and said, demon, come forth. But he said the name. And I'm like, it said, no, it wouldn't come out. And he looked at me and he said, I know you don't want me to hurt the woman. And if I rip the demon out now, she would die. He says, I'll be back later for him. So he walked back down the hallway and disappeared. We all went to our respective homes and beds. And at 3 a.m., we all were awoken and we heard, it's done. And I called her the next day, and she says it's been 20 years since she felt normal. I told her, please get some counseling. I said, you have PTSD, big time. I said, go get counseling. And last thing I knew, she did. My friends to this day cannot believe of what they saw at that time.
Wow,
With
that's
both. He
amazing.
says, the minister, my friend Aaron, he says, I've always known that good and evil exist. And he says, I've always known that Jesus exists and Lucifer exists. But to see them in the same place at basically the same time, he says, that blew my mind. And I'm like, I give him a hard time because, you got to laugh at it. I said, well, I bet you didn't know you moved in such exalted circles, did you?
Right, yeah.
You got to have a sense of humor about it.
Now, I want to go back to something you said, that this demon had a job basically to do for Lucifer. And, didn't want to do it. That's why he's saying. So is some of the motivation for these that they're actually having jobs to do, that they're being assigned to a person to kind of attach themselves to?
Yeah, they're given assignments. It's usually someone the assignment is usually someone to attach themselves to someone who is in a position that can influence other people. It's like a domino effect. Like, say, the demon's attached to the Pope, then he, of course, what better person to attach to, because he can influence all of these millions of people, and so on and so forth. Like being in, with like I don't know, FBI or whatever. They have they have the ability to influence other people, and that's what they're all about. They're all about influencing people and bringing pain and destruction upon mankind, because each living person contains a white light soul, and they want revenge.
Now, what would be some, they just, would some other motivations be that they're trying to feed off of humans? Anything else that they would be
Yeah,
doing?
that's those are the lesser demons are not. They're the ones that they're kind of rowdy, and you're gonna find those in the physical world because they're just running rampant. But the old ones rarely come down unless there is a good reason for it, because we're not worth their time and energy, really. They consider us beneath them. So if you see an old one here, there's a good reason for it. It's like, it just doesn't happen that frequently, but as Zach Baggins found out, because the one that attacked him in the demon house was an old demon. And that's the same one that came to where I was at the Norblad, where they were filming at the Norblad. And because the demon came to me and said, I have a message for him. And I'm like, okay. And Zach's like, well, what's the message? I said, he won't tell me until you're in his presence. I said, otherwise, he's just not telling me until then. And he says, well, I'd be safe. I'm like, yeah, as long as I'm there, you'll be safe. But the old demon warned him, I'm the one that took your sight in the demon house. And I'm telling you right now, you better straighten up. You better stop, because I can kill you in a heartbeat.
Ah, that's
So,
terrifying.
it's up to him to do, I told him, I said, I'm just the messenger. I said, I'm just interpreting. I said, it's up to you you know, to act or not. But he's just warning you. I said, these old ones never come down. So if he's warning you, you better listen.
Let's talk about, for the last few minutes that we have, some myths and truths about protecting yourself against these entities. First of all, what are some common myths about protecting yourself?
Well, a lot of people I found they use crystals to protect themselves. A crystal doesn't do anything at all. All it does will amplify the energy, whether it's good or bad. Some people, fortunately, almost nobody uses tar water anymore because it's carcinogenic, and the people that make it die from it. But they used to be in voodoo and stuff. That was the quote unquote drug of choice to keep the bad spirits away, but really doesn't work. Some people try to use brake dust, spread across the doorway or the windows to keep out the negatives. That won't work. Some people or some people have been known to sleep with tobacco under their pillow to keep away the demons. A white salt, they think if they put white salt down, that's gonna, keep the negatives away, but it won't. And wearing a cross, a plain cross, will not do it. It has to be a crucifix with the image of Jesus on it. But those are just a few of the things that I've seen people use to try to protect themselves. But the best weapon is, the power of prayer and invoking, Jesus Christ and God Almighty, because they don't like that. The negatives don't like that. And that will help to ward them off. Wearing a crucifix, like I said, with the image of Jesus on it. I have black salt. God gave me the recipe for it, eons ago when I started doing removals, and he blesses it at every step of the making of it. And it's not your typical black salt. There are special qualities about it, and there are things that are used in it that are not used anywhere else. But it hasn't failed in over 40 years to protect someone. My black salt will work. Um, like I said, sealing the doors and the windows with holy water or anointing oil in your home. If you carry the black salt on you, it will protect you. My paranormal sister group in the UK, I had them put it in cremation necklaces and wear it. And it can always tell when there's something negative nearby because it gets hot, almost too hot to wear as the salt is protecting. But if you put it down in a complete perimeter around your home, then nothing negative can get through there, whether it be of this world or the next.
And can you also call upon any other like angelic beings, guardian
Yeah,
angels?
you can call on. The Legion is big. The Legion consists of Ariel, Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel. They are the ones, the elite, the demon slayers, and you can call on one of them, and they'll come in and help.
Now, when it comes to the possession, a person who's possessed or has some kind of entity, have you ever come across any cases where the entity has, I guess, made the person kill themselves or harm themselves to the point of death?
Um, no, I haven't come across one of those, but I've heard about it happening because it would influence the individual, or the individual would be so distraught that they would kill themselves. But fortunately, I haven't come across that. I've come to across a few that it was close. One of them was a sniper over in Iraq, and he came back with a demon attached to him, and it was making his life a living hell. He said at one point he wanted to take a gun to his head, and then he says some strange thing made him turn on the radio, and he said he heard me, and then he connected with me. And I told him, I said, it's usually your guides and guardians. I said, they will get you where you need to be to get help. And that's what they do. They cannot, a guardian angel or a spirit guide are not strong enough to get rid of a demon, but they can work behind the scenes to get you where you need to go to get help. So it's all about, getting the right help.
Now, when it comes to curses, what are your thoughts on those? Do you think that curses can be a mechanism to actually get a person to be attached to an entity? And, how do curses work?
See, the thing is, a curse isn't like we think of a curse. With most people think of a curse, it's like, I curse you and your generation for years to come to have warts all over, or, that sort of thing. But what it is, it's one of two things. It's either a human spirit that you've wronged and is so mad that when it dies, it seeks revenge and it will attach itself. If it attaches itself to the individual who caused the problem, and in some cases they get so mad they will attach them to that person dies, and they attach to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, all in the family. Like I had somebody come to me that said, all the men in our family have been cursed, and I'm like, but it's not what you're thinking. This is what it is, or it's that, or it's a demonic attachment. I have had where people have used brujas and dark art people to send a demon, to attach a demon to an individual. I've had that happens quite a bit. So I simply take the demon and attach it to the person who sent it, and see how they like that for a while before I decide to take it out.
One more question before you go. What are your thoughts on Ouija boards? Do you think that those are probably not a good idea, dangerous in any way?
They're a tool like anything, like a crystal ball or divining rods or a pendulum. It's how you use it. If your intention is to connect with something negative, you're going to connect. If your intention is to only connect with good, then 9 times out of 10, that's that's what'll happen. I know when I died and went to the other side, one of the things that I learned was in their world, in the dark world, as well as in the light world, thought becomes reality. And it is the intention behind the thought that gives it power. So if your intention is powerful enough that you get on the board and you want to speak to the demon, then you're going to get a demon. It's a door, it's a portal. Close the darn door, for God's sakes.
Yeah, you definitely want to close the door. June, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Before you head out, if people want to find out more about you, you gave it your email earlier. If they want to find out, you have a website or any social media, how can they do so?
I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, Instagram. You can go to my website, mysticconnections.org or demonseer.com. They both kind of merge into each other. And you can connect with me that way. You can send me a message, email. You can send me an email or a Facebook message. Doesn't matter. I usually respond in 48 to 72 hours.
Awesome. June, thank you so much again. Fantastic information, and I'd love to have you back on sometime in the future.
Yep, I'll be back. I like you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Have an excellent evening. Until next time, everyone else, have a great night.